Hi, I'm Chef Ian Bromstead, and welcome to Regal Fare, where I'll show you how to create simple and elegant meals, just like we do at some of the finest restaurants in this country. Today we're going to prepare an heirloom tomato salad with olive and crumbled egg. Then we'll prepare a Long Island duck breast with stone fruits and freekeh. Then we're going to prepare a lemon tart with meringue and pistachio. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on our tart. So to make our tart, I'm going to take 50 grams of almond flour. I'm going to add it to this bowl here. I'm going to take 50 grams of all-purpose flour and add it to the bowl. And I'm going to start to fold all of these dry ingredients together. So now that we have our dry ingredients combined, I'm going to take 1 egg yolk and mix it in this bowl here with about, let's say, 3 tablespoons of cold water. So I just want to mix these two together just to incorporate the egg into the water. So now that we have those two mixed, I'm going to fold in about half of a cup of diced butter. So now that we have our butter and flour together, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mix all these. So now that we have our flours and butter mixed together, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start adding our egg mixture. So we only need just a little bit. We really only need just enough to get the dough to come together. So as soon as we get the dough, so now that our dough is starting to form, we can go ahead and we can transfer this to our work surface. So I'm going to take a pretty generous amount of all-purpose flour here, and I'm just going to add it to the work surface, and we're going to start to mix our dough. So now that our dough is nice and flat, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fold it over just a couple times just to make sure that the dough is nicely formed. So now that we have our dough, and I'm going to roll it out with our rolling pin. We just want a nice thin sheet of the pastry dough. And as we go, we can continue to add the flour to adjust the consistency if we need. If it's a little wet, I'm fine to add a little more flour. So now that we have a nice sheet of the pastry dough, we can go ahead and lay this over top of our tart shell and just press this in gently. So now that we have the pastry dough lined into the bottom of our tart shell, we can go ahead and take the rolling pin and we can just cut off the excess. The almond flour gives us a real nice richness that I really love, and it'll actually work really well with the pistachios when we go to finish this tart. So now that we have our tart shell filled with our pastry dough, I'm just going to take some of these dried baking beans and I'm just going to fill it up. What this does is actually keep the center of the tart shell from puffing up, so we can have a nice amount of filling in it later. So now that we have our tart shell ready, I'm going to set this over here and we're going to start working on our lemon curd. So this is fine here. I'm going to wash my hands. So now to start our lemon curd, I'm going to take 4 tablespoons of lemon juice, fresh lemon juice. And I'm going to increase the heat on our double boiler here. It's just a pot of water with a mixing bowl set over top so that the steam heat creates a nice gentle heat to cook the eggs. So we can add our second egg here. And I have 4 tablespoons of white sugar. So what we're going to do is we're going to just start whisking all these items together over the double boiler just until the egg cooks. And what's going to end up happening is the egg is going to thicken the lemon juice, and we're going to have a nice, thick, rich, creamy lemon curd here. You can see this froth that's coming out from whipping the eggs. Once we're getting close to having our lemon curd be thickened, we'll start to see that froth start to go away. So that'll be a good indicator that we're getting close. So just another minute. Tell the eggs are starting to get warm, starting to get little ribbons, just starting to get a little bit of thickness here. We can go ahead and almost pull this off the heat, just another few moments. And we're just about there. So now you can see we have a nice, thick, rich, creamy lemon curd. And now while this is still warm, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of butter just to give this a little bit of richness. The butter will really help balance out some of the acidity of the lemon. So now our lemon curd is just finished. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cool down our lemon curd. I'm going to bake our tart shell for about 8 or 9 minutes in a 350-degree oven. We're going to get this cleaned up and we'll be right back to make our tomato salad. Welcome back. We're going to go ahead and we're going to get started on our tomato salad now. So to start our tomato salad, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a little tapenade. So I have some black Kalamata olives that I just pitted and chopped. I'm going to take just a little bit of, just a very small amount of chopped anchovy, about half a teaspoon, very small amount. I'm going to take just a little bit of garlic and I'm going to take a microplane and I'm just going to grate this right in. Not too much, like half a clove is good. Get that in. I'm going to take just a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, drizzle this right in. It's an excellent tapenade, black olive tapenade that can be used for a whole range of other options. I really like the saltiness and the flavor that the anchovies bring. The raw garlic is going to give a really excellent spicy kick to this. And I'm going to add just a little bit of chopped parsley. So now that we have our tapenade made, let's add a little bit of fresh ground pepper in here as well while we're at it. So now that we have our tapenade made, I'm just going to set this aside. So now I'm going to start arranging our tomatoes. So I have a beautiful selection of heirloom tomatoes here. I'll start with some of these big ones. I really like to cut the tomatoes into a lot of different shapes and sizes and varieties. It really highlights the beauty of all these different tomatoes. Really want to showcase the beauty of all these delicious heirloom tomatoes. We have some beautiful yellow ones. I really prefer the yellow ones. I find the sweetness really comes out. So we'll just arrange all of these beautiful tomatoes around on the plate. Another one of these yellow ones. I really love these dark ones. They have a real sweet quality that I really like. They have these green stripes in the back. They're really gorgeous. These come from Cherry Hill Farms in upstate New York, and they're a really excellent vegetable to enjoy for summer. So now that I have a nice array of the tomatoes on the plate, I'm going to go ahead and start arranging some of our other vegetables. I have some beautiful little Armenian cucumbers here, these little tiny cucumbers, really sweet, and crunchy, and delicious. I'm going to arrange them around on the plate. Really nice, fresh summer salad. It's going to go really nicely with the saltiness of the olives and the anchovy. It's going to be a really excellent summer salad. So we have some of the Armenian cucumbers on. I have these tiny little Mexican gherkin cucumbers. These are a really excellent find when you can get them. I bought these at the Union Square Green Market at Windfall Farms. Really excellent astringency to them. They really bring a nice cool flavor to the dish. Just one more piece here. So now that we have our cucumbers on, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take some of our olive tapenade. I'm just going to put some nice big dollops on. Really brings a nice saltiness to this dish. So just all over. I like to have some little piles. So that way when you're eating the salad, you can kind of mix them together. Spread the clumps of the olives all over the tomatoes. Really excellent with the tomato. So now that we have our olive tapenade on, I'm going to take some of our crumbled egg. I'm just going to sprinkle some of our crumbled egg. So all I did with these eggs is I just hard boiled them for about 9 minutes. I cooled them down in ice water, and then I just peeled them and I passed them through the holes of a large mesh strainer. Gives it a really nice texture, really nice crumble, really uniform size. And the egg is going to give a really nice richness to this dish. So now that we have our egg on, I'm going to go ahead and add some fresh ground pepper. I'm going to arrange a few of these tiny little basil leaves. These are all just the smallest leaves out of a bunch of basil. Really delicious summer tomato, egg, and olive salad. Just get a whole bunch of basil all over here. The more basil, the better, I always say. So we'll add our basils. So now that we have all of our basil on, I'm going to drizzle with just a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. Really love the extra virgin olive oil. It really brings a real richness to the dish. I think it works really well with the tomatoes, basil. So now that I have all of our olive oil on, I'm just going to take a few pieces of Parmesan, and just with a peeler, I'm just going to take a few nice slices. I'm just going to arrange these around. Really like this. This also brings a real salty richness to it. I think it works really well with the tomatoes. So just arrange all these Parmesan shavings onto the salad. So now that we have our Parmesan on, these are actually borage flowers. These are sort of in the cucumber family. They have a really nice flavor. They work really well with the flavor of the cucumbers. I'm just going to arrange some of these purple flowers around, and the purple color really brings a nice pop, a real nice color contrast to the salad. Really love these when they're available. These also came from Windfall Farms. So here we have our heirloom tomato salad with cucumber, olive tapenade, and our borage flowers. We'll be right back, and we're going to start on our duck. Welcome back. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start preparing our duck. So as you can see, I have quite a few ingredients here. So first we're going to go ahead and we're going to prepare our farro. So I'm just going to take a little bit of extra virgin olive oil here. And I'm going to add a little bit of what we call mirepoix. It's a traditional blend of vegetables, which will be onion, carrot, and celery. So I'm just going to add a few large pieces of celery, carrot, and onion to this pot. I'm adding these pieces and I'm leaving them very large so that when it's time to remove the farro, we can remove these large pieces of onion. So they just give up their flavor and then we can separate them later. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to let these vegetables start to sweat. And in this pan, we can go ahead and we can start cooking these plums to make a plum sauce. So I'm going to add these plums to this pan. Let them start cooking. So now that our plums are cooking, I'm going to go ahead and add just a little bit of white sugar, about, let's say, a tablespoon of white sugar. It's going to add a beautiful sweetness that'll work very well with the acidity of the pears, or the plums. So our vegetables here are sweating nicely. Just want to get a little bit of tenderness out of the vegetables, so we want to cook those for just another few moments. We can go ahead and we can actually start searing our duck. So I have a beautiful Long Island duck breast here. I'm just going to season both sides with a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. So now that our vegetables are starting to sweat here, getting a little bit of color, the oil is starting to take on that delicious vegetable flavor. So now that we have all of our vegetables sweating, we can add some of our dried farro here. Beautiful grain, and also known as wheat berries. So I want to go ahead and I want to toast all this farro in with these vegetables. Just let all that oil get coated, that delicious oil that we're making here, get coated all over the farro. So now that we have our farro coated in the oil, I'm just going to cover them with water. We're going to let these cook just until they're tender. Our plums are cooking along nicely. I'm going to go ahead and get this duck breast down in just a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. So I'm just going to drop our duck breast in here. So now that we have our duck breast cooking, we're just going to cook this on the skin side. We just want to get a nice crisp duck skin, so we're just going to let this cook like this. If you'll notice, I I went ahead and I cut a bunch of score marks into the surface of the skin. What that'll do is it'll actually help let some of the fat render out of the skin, and it'll ultimately make for a crispier skin. So our plums are cooking along nicely here. We're just going to go ahead and we're going to cook these plums just until they're tender, and then we're going to transfer them to the blender. So I also have just a little bit of balsamic vinegar. I'm just going to go ahead and add that to the plums. That's going to help balance out some of the sweetness from the plums and also the sugar we added. It's going to make what we call a gastrique, which is where we take sugar and vinegar and we create them together in a sauce. You see immediately the darkness of the balsamic really gives this a beautiful dark color. It goes really nicely with the color of the plums. So as this duck breast cooks, it's going to render the fat out of the skin. So as it cooks, what I like to do is I like to pour some of the fat out so that we really only cook the skin and then we're not cooking the delicate meat on the other side. I'm just going to take some of this fat and just pour it right out of the pan. Now our plums are almost ready here. Just going to add a little bit of water. You don't want this to get too dry. Just another few moments here. The plums are almost tender enough to puree. You don't want to overcook them, just tender. So now that our plums are tender, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to transfer these to the blender. So I'm just going to get all these plums down here. And we're just going to puree the plums. I may need to add just a little bit of water to this. That's fine. So we're blending. Our faro is cooking along nicely. Our duck should be rendering nicely. We're starting to get a little bit of beautiful color there. I'm gonna let this. So now that our plum sauce has been pureed, I'm just gonna add a little bit of salt. I'm just gonna transfer that to this bowl so that when we go to plate it's a little easier. Our beautiful plum sauce here. So as we're rendering our duck skin, we can go ahead and take a look. You can see now that we have a nice beautiful golden brown. We'll let it cook for just another few moments. So in this pan here, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to start roasting these turnips that I have. I have these beautiful little purple turnips here. I'm just going to place them in this pan of olive oil. Just start roasting them. Get a little color. So our turnips are roasting. We can see that our faro is just about cooked. You can see that the kernels have increased in size and they're just becoming tender. So the faro is ready. So now we can go ahead and we can start flipping over our turnips. You see we're getting a nice beautiful golden brown on them. Maybe a little under. We can go ahead and turn our duck. Just let this cook on the other side for just a few moments. And we can start getting ready to plate. So I'm going to take some of our faro. I'm just going to pull some of these vegetables aside. I'm going to scoop out some of the faro. And to this faro now, I'm going to add just a little bit of butter. And I have these fresh currants. These are just fresh currants. I'm just going to go ahead and add these as well. So we can set this aside. And we can turn all of our turnips. They should be nice and golden brown now. So all of our turnips are looking beautiful. And I bet our duck breast is just about there. Really only needs a little bit on the other side. A little rare still. Let's keep cooking. So we can take our faro and we can mix the butter into it. I'm just going to season it with just a little bit more salt and pepper. A little more salt. And a little bit of chopped parsley. The parsley is going to go really well with the color of the currants. So now that we have our farro together, I'm going to go ahead and just put some of it down on the plate. Take a look at our duck quickly. Another few moments. Continue plating our farro. So I'm going to take our duck breast out. It's now ready. I'm going to season our turnips with just a little bit of salt and pepper. Start arranging the turnips around on the plate. Turnips go really well with the duck. They have a real nice texture, subtle, tender. Goes really well with the flavor of the duck. So we can take some of these purslane greens. You can start arranging these around as well. These go really nicely with the flavor of the duck. The duck is very rich and fatty. The astringency of these little purslane greens work really well with the flavor of the duck. I have a little bit of plums, just sliced fresh plums. I'm going to arrange these here as well. And I have just a few fresh sliced apricots. I'm going to add these also. I really love the flavor of the stone fruits with the farro and the duck. I think they go really nicely together. So we can just go ahead and we can slice our duck now. I'm just going to take a little bit off the bottom. And then I'm going to take a nice big slice of this duck. Nice, beautiful, rare duck. So I'm going to take just a little bit of this plum sauce. Just drizzle it around. So now we can lay our beautiful duck breast right here. You can take a little bit of this Maldon salt, this beautiful crunchy salt, and just one of these little viola flowers. These are the little viola flowers we got from Windfall Farms. So here we have our roasted duck with farro and stone fruits. I'm going to get this clean up and we'll be right back to present our dishes. Welcome back. So I've gone ahead and put our lemon curd into our tart shell, and I made a little bit of meringue. All I did was I whipped 2 egg whites with a 1/4 cup of sugar until they were stiff, formed stiff peaks. So I'm just going to pipe some of this meringue right on top of the lemon curd. And then I'm just going to take a little blowtorch and just brulee the meringue just a little bit. Just give it a little bit of color. Just a little bit of color. So now we have our meringue bruleed. I'm just going to go ahead and sprinkle some pistachios around. So here we have our lemon tart with pistachio and meringue. We have our tomato salad with olive tapenade and cucumber. And then we have our roasted duck with stone fruits and farro. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Regal Fare. I'm Chef Ian Bromstead, and we'll see you here next time.